How's it going, people? You may have seen that last year I did a video on the top 5 cheap cars that you can buy with 500 brake horsepower. I did that at the £20,000 mark, but I've recently realised that you can actually get a bunch of cars at 500 brake horsepower for less than £15,000, so that video was kind of lazy almost. The cars I mentioned in that video were the Jaguar XKR, the BMW M5 and M6, a whole bunch of Mercedes, the Bentley Continental GT, and the Audi RS6. I won't be repeating those in this video, of course, and going for 5 new cars that you can get for less than £15,000 and had 500 brake horsepower when they left the factory. To reduce any bias on my side, I have listed them in terms of their brake horsepower figures and split any ties by using their 0 to 60 times. Remember that I make these videos from the UK market perspective, so prices in other countries may differ, and also remember that whenever you're buying any second-hand car, particularly high performance ones, maintenance, repairs, insurance and tax, etc. are super important to keep in mind, but I'll mention them throughout the video. Topic of the week this week, something I want you guys to comment on down below. How many brake horsepower does your car have? I have 52 in my VW Polo, or at least I had 52 when it left the factory. I assume it's probably running about 30 at the moment. It's utterly abysmal. How many brake horsepower is your car putting out? As always, remember to like and subscribe for more weekly car content. Hit the bell icon if you haven't already, and without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting us off at number 5 with the first generation Land Rover Range Rover Sport with the 5-litre supercharged Jaguar V8 engine that puts out 502 brake horsepower, 625 Nm of torque, and does 0 to 60 in just 6 seconds. Pretty reasonable pace out of a car of this size. This all-wheel drive beast was originally inspired by the Range Stormer concept car that was introduced at the 2004 North American International Auto Show. This was a 3-door coupe that looked particularly sporty when compared with Land Rover's other vehicles. Interesting point to note is the fact that in January 2019, Land Rover cancelled the more recent exclusive Range Rover 3-door coupe, which likely took inspiration from the Range Stormer as well. That said, the Stormer had gull-wing doors, which are yet to be seen on a Range Rover, among other interesting features like one-piece skeletal seats and a clamshell bonnet. The body of the actual Range Rover Sport was adapted from the Discovery 3's design, giving the Sport the structural rigidity of a monocoque chassis and the robustness of a separate chassis design for off-roading. The car also features Brembo brakes on the front, air suspension with 3 ride height settings, and a terrain response system. In terms of that air suspension, it's pretty intelligent. If the car bellies out, the suspension realises there's slightly less weight being put on it and automatically raises its height. The Sport also comes with electro-hydraulic active anti-roll bars which react to cornering forces to make for far better handling at high speeds. A pretty nuts feature for a car of this size. The 5-litre supercharged V8 I mentioned only came with the facelift model that was released in 2009, which sported new lights, grills and bumpers, as well as numerous significant changes to the interior. You can pick up a high mileage example for as little as £11,500, but 15 grand will get you a 2009 model with around 61,000 miles on the clock. Not bad at all for this big British beast. In terms of reliability, the supercharged 5-litre AJ V8 engine is considered to be pretty bulletproof, provided you're willing to keep it well maintained. It has been suggested by Jaguar Land Rover specialists that the engine needs to be serviced once every 10 to 15,000 miles and requires a large service at 105,000 miles. Outside of the engine, the main issue I could find was related to poor electrics, which often left people stranded by the side of the road, even within the first 15,000 miles of use. In addition to this, lots of Range Rover Sports have actually been used heavily for carrying sports equipment, etc., so interiors can often be quite worn, but that's a minor point. The fact this car surpasses 500 brake horsepower and offers you quite a luxurious Chelsea wagon to waft around in should make this a great option for under £15,000. I can't say it's a car that whets my appetite, as I don't really like the shape of the old RRS, but each to their own, and it well deserves its place on this list. Continuing the 4x4 theme, we have a car that was a massive oversight in the previous video, the second generation Mercedes-Benz ML63 AMG. As it's a 63 AMG, it hosts that incredible naturally aspirated 6.2 litre V8 that puts out 502 brake horsepower, 630 Nm of torque, and does 0 to 60 in an insane 4.8 seconds, some proper performance out of an SUV of this size. If you're not familiar with the ML class, it's because it was actually the precursor to the GLE class that we see today available from Mercedes. When the second gen ML was released, it was named the best new sport utility vehicle in the 2006 Canadian Car of the Year Awards, showing its prowess. At the time of coming into production, the ML63 AMG was the most powerful naturally aspirated V8 SUV in the world, and is easily the fastest 4x4 on this list. The platform for the ML class was shared with the new GL class, which we are more familiar with today. The GL class was basically a longer 7-seater version of the ML class. In its AMG spec, it has a speed shift 7-speed automatic transmission, and as as with all AMGs, the engine is hand-built in Germany for that extra exclusive feeling. The car was actually named a super SUV by Evo magazine for its overall performance. You could pick up a high-mileage ML63 AMG for around £11,000, but £15,000 will get you a 2007 model with around 83,000 miles on the clock. Quite a lot of miles, but not a ridiculous amount. In terms of reliability, the build quality of the car is supposedly excellent, and as long as the car is well cared for, it should be quite durable. Having said that, owners of the car note horrific running costs, with 17 miles per gallon for daily driving, even less if you push the car, and £555 a year road tax, which is utterly mental. On top of this, in the UK, quite a few were fixed under warranty for door corrosion, but would cost you around £6,000 if you don't have a warranty with the car. Overall, the ML63 provides an interesting prospect for anyone looking for beastly performance, a lot of space, and a hefty dent in their wallet when it comes to running their cars. A 502 brake horsepower hand-built AMG naturally aspirated V8 engine for less than £15,000 though? Not sure I could say no to that. On to the top 3 now, and in third place we have the X250 Jaguar XKR that shares the same Jaguar AJ V8 engine used by the Range Rover Sport I mentioned previously. For your reference, that was a 5-litre supercharged V8 putting out 502 brake horsepower, 625 Nm of torque, but due to the much lighter weight of the XKR, going from 0 to 60 in just 4.7 seconds. So it's a pretty serious executive saloon, but that's not all that's serious about this Jag. This rear-wheel drive saloon has some serious luxury features for its age, even if some are quite gimmicky, like the fact that when you start the engine, the aircon vents rotate open, and the rotating gear selector rises from the centre console. It was also an early Jag to feature the blue backlighting behind instruments, switchgear, and around major control panels, as well as the general interior lighting, which is controlled by touching the light covers. You actually can't get any XFs with a peasant cloth interior. All come exclusively in leather, with options of wood, aluminium, carbon fibre, and piano black trims. The reason why I'm focusing so heavily on all these luxury features is the fact that this car basically rivals cars like the BMW M5 and Mercedes C63 AMG, while remaining a somewhat gentlemanly, non-flashy saloon. It is far more understated with its classic Jaguar styling, yet it was the fastest Jag saloon available at the time, making it more about stealthy performance than loud and shouty flair. And this car is properly quick, not only from a standstill but at higher speeds. It has a claimed 1.9 second 50 to 70 mph time, which is almost a second quicker than the RS6 from the same era. You can't argue with the performance. £10,000 will get you a high mileage example of the XKR, with £15,000 you can expect to get a 2010 model with around 66,000 miles on the clock. I've already mentioned the engine's reliability with the Range Rover Sport, but there's more to the story with the XKR. The transmission rarely gives problems, though an oil and filter change at 60,000 miles is recommended, and the EDIF can suffer issues with fault codes. The power of the car isn't kind to the tyres either, and a set of new ones will cost you around £900, which isn't cheap. Bushes are also prone to wear, and in terms of electrics, it's a generally sound car. Apparently the Bowers & Wilkins upgrade is well worth it too, so look out for this. I'm a big fan of a fast Jag, and the XKR ticks many boxes for anyone looking for great performance, sound luxury, and of course, 500 brake horsepower. Just missing out on the top spot we have another 4x4, the first generation Porsche Cayenne 4.5 Turbo S, which hosts a twin turbocharged 4.5 litre V8 that puts out 514 brake horsepower, 720 Nm of torque, and does 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. Not the quickest SUV on the list, but still a beast in its own right. This 4x4 was actually built to compete with the ML63 AMG, and though it has more power, it remains slower from 0 to 60 despite the two turbochargers. Even the updated model in 2008 with the 4.8 litre engine only just surpasses the Merc from 0 to 60 at 4.7 seconds. The air suspension comes with 6 different settings, and the body automatically lowers ride height at 78 mph and again at 131 mph to get extra downforce. Funny because that means here in the UK the car shouldn't ever automatically lower itself given our speed limits. The Cayenne SUV was quite unexpected from the well-loved sports car maker and led critics to ask why Porsche had gone down this route. The simple answer was survival. As sports car sales fell in the 1990s, Porsche was struggling, and the new CEO Vanderlyn Wiedeking knew that the company had to branch out. They chose the SUV route to penetrate the US market even further, as this was at the time already Porsche's largest market. It also turned out that 2/3 of Porsche owners at the time owned at least 2 other cars, and one was usually an SUV. This gave Porsche the opportunity to gain a greater market share of those other cars owned by Porsche owners, which is exactly what happened. It acted as a hedge against the sports car market dipping again in the future. It helped Porsche pay its $128 million debt and amass a $2.1 billion cash flow. Very decent. Despite the fact that the car proved itself as a well-handling and rapid player among SUVs, it was still hit by depreciation pretty hard, making it the cheapest car on this list, as you can pick up a high mileage example for just £7,000, less than half the base price for this video. £15,000 will get you a 2006 model with around 53,000 miles on the clock, which is very good on the money to miles to power ratio. They are not renowned for their reliability, however, particularly in terms of electrical issues. One Porsche specialist even suggests buyers avoid pre-2007 Cayennes entirely, with the potential for engine failures being high. On top of this, ownership costs are high, with fuel economy in particular being a poor point at 18 miles per gallon. Overall though, this car has a great history to it, and when it's working it will provide you with some insane performance for a sizable car, but not as much performance as the top car on this list. Taking the top spot in this video, we have another Mercedes that has just dipped below £15,000. The W221 Mercedes-Benz S63 AMG, which shares the same engine as the ML63 AMG I mentioned previously, a 6.2 litre V8, though tuned differently to put out 517 brake horsepower, taking it from 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds, the quickest and most powerful car on this list. The W221 is a larger S-Class, following the tradition of older models which was broken by the W220. The S-Class has been at the forefront of vehicular technology for quite some time, and the S63 AMG is no exception, with a variety of luxury features like dual zone climate control, DVD entertainment systems, built-in nav, heated and cooled front and rear seats, and other great features that weren't as common at the time. You can tell it's a luxury car given the fact that it's classed as a limousine in the long wheelbase form, as well as the fact that it was used by numerous presidents around the world, not the AMG, but still. The engine used in the S63 AMG and ML63 AMG is particularly interesting too, as it was the first car V8 engine built autonomously by AMG rather than Benz. It was also designed to be a racing engine, but was of course repurposed for the road. There was in fact a lawsuit related to this engine filed against Mercedes for the engines having premature wear, though this case was ultimately dismissed and closed by the courts. At the time of making this video, there is only one S63 AMG under £15,000 for sale, and it has 80,000 miles on the clock. Compared with some of the other cars on this list, that isn't ridiculously high, so I would still potentially back it as a good option. I mentioned that lawsuit filed against the engine, and it is most certainly the case that the engine has had issues in the past. Owners of the car suggest getting a warranty with it, as the electrical features are also prone to a few issues, like the heated seats. Though you might expect good build quality out of the car, I also came across numerous owners that had to deal with suspension strut and engine mounting issues, so be wary of this. If I had the choice from this list, I'd probably go for the Jag, just because it's slightly newer and slightly better looking in my opinion, but for out and out performance, you can't argue with the S63 AMG, a proper beast to take the top spot on this list. So in this video I've given you 5 cars that you can buy for less than £15,000 that have more than 500 brake horsepower. Let me know if I've missed any cars, not including obviously the ones that I mentioned in my £20,000 video, because I've already gone through those. Feel free to watch that, the link should be at the end of the video. Don't forget the topic of the week, I want to hear how much brake horsepower your car's putting out. As always, remember to like and subscribe for more weekly car content, but thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.